This is Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock.
And welcome to the program. I'm Roby Brock. Always glad to have you with us. This week was an uncommonly busy one in Washington, D.C. and in Arkansas. We begin with a midweek interview I had with Congressman Rick Crawford, an opponent of the health care plan that was being pushed by Speaker Paul Ryan and President Donald Trump. Let's talk about health care reform. It is the topic of the day in Washington, D.C. Tell me where you stand presently on the Ryan-Trump health care plan.
I'm not for it right now, and so far I haven't seen any of the changes that will compel me to change that vote at this point in time.
Tell me what some of the changes might be that would change your vote, either in a firm or no position or in into a positive position. Is there something specific you're looking for?
Yeah, I tell you, I think we kind of missed the mark possibly on just how we got started with this deal. I think that, you've heard the three bucket sort of theorem that, we'll start the first bucket will be this reconciliation piece where we'll vote on that, which is what we're sort of wrangling now. And then the second bucket would be the administrative action. And then the third bucket being those legislative pieces that are going to require, specific legislation that don't fall under the budget reconciliation method. So I think they got that wrong, in my opinion. I think they should have taken the administrative action first and then started the reconciliation piece. I'm not the expert. I guess they are. But my point is this: it just seems like what we're doing is setting up the administration, HHS, Secretary Tom Price, for a whole lot of litigation that possibly could have been avoided. That's number one. Number two, I don't think that they're fully utilizing the budget reconciliation process that they could in a more creative way. But then again, I think probably the better approach from my perspective would have been for the House and the Senate to work in concert, recognizing we're going to initiate this legislation in the House based on what the Senate believes they can pass through reconciliation, and then add on to it, change it as it needs to be, and then send it back to the House. And I think we could have, had we worked a little more of a concerted effort, we might have had a better chance of actually getting this across the finish line to more people's satisfaction. It doesn't appear that that's the approach that they're taking, but that's just my perspective.
And so if this, if the AHCA does fail, perhaps that will be the drawing board that they go back to on that. Let's talk about another topic that has been a huge topic this week, and you were on the House Intelligence Committee. We saw FBI Director James Comey come and testify, acknowledge that there is an investigation that has been going on since July of the Trump campaign, Trump associates, and potential ties to Russia. Where do you think the facts are leading you in this investigation right now?
Well, obviously, as you heard, and I don't want to quote Director Comey too much here, but there are certain things I can't say. I will say this: you touched on it. Where are the facts leading? I can't necessarily tell you where the facts are leading per se, but what I can say is we're committed to following the facts. That's the most important thing. And in light of some of the the things that have come to our attention here in the last couple of days, I think it's important that we take a different perspective on this. While I think it's important that the American people know that we're engaged in this ongoing investigation in the House Intelligence Committee, as is the Senate. The FBI director came out and he was authorized by the DOJ to acknowledge that they in fact were also conducting an investigation. I think that's as far as we need to go in a public setting. I think beyond that, I think we probably are not doing ourselves any favors in regard to how we pursue the facts. Some of that stuff just needs to continue to be behind closed doors until such time as we arrive at a conclusion, and we can disclose that at that point in time.
It seemed to be from the director's comments that there is, even though it's been going on since late July, there still is a long ways to go in investigating this. Do you share that sentiment that we're maybe just at the tip of the iceberg in terms of doing the fact checking that has to be done to decide what has or hasn't happened?
I think that's probably correct. I mean, look, if you're going back in this particular case to July, so that's 6, 7, 8 months ago, and then you can't put a timeline on this because that's not the way to conduct an investigation, completed by a date certain, because the further along you go in the investigation, the more facts are going to come into play, and it may protract that investigation for, who knows how long. So I think we need to, provide the given latitude for them to perform that investigation. But again, they're going to report back, and our Intelligence Committee is also engaged, and they're going to report back, and they're going to let us know how things are progressing. But I think we need to keep that out of the public sphere for now until such time as we have something to announce. But I do think that it's important, as we demonstrated on Monday, to let the people of our country know that yes, in fact, there is an investigation into Russian active measures as it applies to the 2016 election. But Russia's been a bad actor for a long, long time. There have been investigations going on for years, and this is just one more facet of that.
Do you think that this should have been revealed before the election in November, as was the Clinton investigation at the time, which raised all kinds of suspicions and trepidation for voters? Should we have known before November's election that President Trump's campaign and his associates were being investigated?
I'm not sure that's necessarily the best context there. I think if we're talking about strictly Russian active measures in the election, that's something that the DOJ had to make a legal determination on whether or not that could be disclosed. And it wasn't until that hearing on Monday when Director Comey came forward with that. I was, quite frankly, a little bit surprised that he was authorized by DOJ at that point in time to make that release and make that public. But he did. Beyond that, what you heard if you watched the hearing was mostly a whole lot of, I can't answer that question in this forum. That's what happens in an open setting. We're kind of limited to what we can share in an open forum, so I think we need to go back to that classified, secure platform, and then maybe we can get a little further along and create a little better dialogue, and maybe expedite the investigation.
Last question for you. You, as a member of the House Intelligence Committee, you're on the subcommittee on emerging threats. There is clearly an emerging threat happening in North Korea at this point in time. There are missile tests that are continue to go on, and the rhetoric seems to be ramped up. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson has indicated it is perhaps time for a new direction, a new dialogue in North Korea. What do you think should happen there? Are we to the point where diplomatic and economic sanctions don't seem to be working, that we may have to look at other options? What might those options be in your mind?
Well, I think certainly you have to make sure that our adversaries understand that all options are on the table at this point. North Korea is a bad actor. I don't want to characterize the entire North Korean population, but I do think it's safe to say that the Kim Jong-un regime is fairly unhinged, and I'm not sure that it's in our interest to take military action off the table. Secretary Tillerson is engaging in this, using whatever diplomatic means he can. But they don't seem to really respond to diplomatic measures. They don't seem to respond to sanctions, and so we'll see. I mean, it's not my place to speculate, but I am highly concerned about what's taking place in North Korea and how long Kim Jong-un rather can continue to subject his people to this kind of treatment, and how he can. Look, even China is concerned about this, and they consider China their ally. So he's really a threat to the region in more ways than one.
All right, Representative Rick Crawford, as always, we appreciate your time, especially on short notice. You earned yourself a gold star in the Talk Business and Politics world. Thank you so much.
Perfect. I'll take it. Thanks, Roby.
Of course, there was plenty of drama with healthcare culminating in Friday's dramatic non-vote. Also, as Congressman Crawford and I were conducting our interview midweek, House Intelligence Committee Chairman Devin Nunes was briefing the president on intelligence information before sharing it with members of the committee. That caused a little bit of a flap. When asked about the move and its potential to undermine the committee's independence in investigating Trump and Russia, Representative Crawford told me later, quote, "While the move wasn't typical due to the sensitivity of the issue, the chairman appropriately went to the White House and then shared the information with the full committee. The move in no way compromised the independence or bipartisan nature of the committee." Now, the chairman did reportedly share information with the full committee, but he refused to disclose his source, and there are some Democrats who said they did not get that information. Obviously, plenty more to come on this front.